Navigating Europe's trains can feel overwhelming. Passes, reservations, timetables, maybe you've never even been on a train before. So where do you start? In this video, I'll break down everything you need to know about traveling through Europe by train, step by step, from choosing the right rail pass to reading those massive arrival and departure boards at train stations. I'll share my tips and experiences to help you plan your ultimate adventure through Europe by train. Hey road trippers, welcome back. If you don't know me, I'm Craig, and over the past 25 years, I've explored Europe, making incredible memories and learning from more than a few mistakes along the way. One thing I've spent a lot of time doing is mastering Europe's train systems. In this video, I'll share everything I've learned to help you choose the right rail options, avoid common pitfalls, and feel confident finding the right train for your trip. Whether you're a first-time traveler or looking to level up your rail adventures, I want to help. Europe's rail network is one of the most extensive and efficient in the world, connecting nearly every corner of the continent with an impressive web of trains. From high-speed routes like France's TGV and Spain's AVE to scenic regional lines winding through the Alps in Switzerland or along the Mediterranean coast. Europe's trains offer a seamless way to explore with over 125,000 miles of track. The system links bustling capitals like Paris, Berlin, and Rome to charming villages and hidden gems you'd never find by airplane. It's a traveler's dream, offering both convenience and the opportunity to experience the landscape up close. What makes the network even more appealing is its reliability and frequency in most places. In many countries, trains run like clockwork, offering regular departures throughout the day. High-speed options can whisk you between cities in a matter of hours. Think Paris to London in just over 2 hours, Rome to Florence in about 90 minutes, while sleeper trains make it possible to go to sleep in one country and wake up in another. Combine that with the train's eco-friendliness, affordability, especially when planned in advance, and the simplicity of station-to-city center travel, and it's easy to see why trains are a favorite for both locals and travelers alike. So where do you start? So before you even step foot in Europe, you need to make a decision on what type of tickets you want for your trains. You can purchase a rail pass or point-to-point tickets for your train journeys. Point-to-point tickets are just what they sound like. You're going to buy a ticket to get you from Rome, Florence, or from Paris to Amsterdam. A pass, however, will allow you to travel multiple days within a specific time frame. And there's multiple types of passes that you can choose from. We'll focus on Eurail in this video. One distinction to make is that if you are in the US or outside of Europe, it's a Eurail pass. If you live within Europe, it is an Interrail pass. They are the same pass, they just differentiate between residency. If you're outside Europe, you'd call it a Eurail pass. If you're within Europe, you'd call it an Interrail pass. There might be minor differences, but for all intents and purposes, they are the same pass. So with a Eurail pass, there are two types. There is a global pass and a single country pass. The Eurail One Country Pass allows you to explore one European country while enjoying the convenience of that rail pass. It's the best choice if you want to spend your vacation experiencing one European country only. You can choose from popular countries like Italy and Spain and use regional and high-speed trains to move from one city center to the next within that country only. A Eurail Global Pass, on the other hand, unlocks over 30,000 destinations within Europe, within 33 countries. It's the classic Eurail Pass, and whether you want to travel to Portugal, and then to Italy, and then to France, and then to Germany, you're allowed to do that with a Global Pass. A Global Pass basically gives you unlimited freedom within multiple countries, whereas a single country pass gives you freedom within one country only. A global pass is broken down into either a flexi pass or a continuous pass. Flexi pass allows you a specific number of days travel within a larger time frame. So for instance, you might travel 4 days within a 1 month period with a flexi pass. So you have 4 days of train travel anytime within a 30-day period. Or you might want to travel 15 days within a 2-month period. So you can travel 15 times on the train within that 2-month period. Each day you can have as many rail trips as you want. You can go from town to town to town in one day, but that day counts against your rail pass. On the other hand, if you have a continuous pass, you might get 15 days consecutively, so you could travel every day in that 15 days. Or you might have a 3-month unlimited rail pass, and you can travel as many days as you want within that 3-month period. If you opt for a single country pass, those are flexi passes, and you are only allowed so many days within a 1-month period. For the Flexi Pass, a travel day ends at 11:59 p.m. of the day you travel. If you decide that you want to get a Rail Pass prices vary depending on how many travel days you have and how long the travel time frame is. So for instance, if you travel for 4 days in a 1-month period, so you have a global Flexi Pass, 4 travel days within 1 month, and you're under 27, you're going to pay $223 US. For a 3-month unlimited global pass, you would pay $753 if you're under 27. And age does matter. There are youth passes, adult passes, child passes, and senior passes, and the prices do vary depending on your age. Youth is up to 27, adult is 28 to 59, child is 4 years old to 11 years old, and senior is 60 plus. And just to give you an example, again, a youth 3-month unlimited global pass is $753 US, whereas an adult 3-month unlimited global pass is $1,004, so roughly a $300 difference. Children under 12 will travel for free with a paying adult pass. So if you're a mother or father and you have kids with you, your kids will travel for free if you have a pass. I think it's 2 kids per pass. There are also 2 classes of pass. There's first class and second class. Second class passes are cheaper. First class passes are maybe 50% more expensive. First class allows you seats in the first class sections of the train, but in my experience, the first class sections aren't that big of a deal, and both first class and second class arrive at the destination at the exact same time, so in my opinion, there's no real point in purchasing a first class ticket unless you have a very specific reason to do so. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of using a rail pass. The first benefit of using a rail pass is the freedom and flexibility you have with a rail pass. If you want to travel today, you can do so. You don't have to worry about going to the train station, buying a ticket. You don't have to worry about having already planned and booked a train ticket to travel today. You just wake up, you go to the train station, you jump on a train, and you're off to the next city or town. That allows ultimate spontaneity, ultimate freedom, ultimate flexibility. Another benefit of the Rail Pass is its simplicity. Again, you don't have to go wait in line to get a train ticket. You don't have to have already booked your train ticket for that day or whatever day you're going to travel on. You simply wake up, show up at the train station, board the train, show the conductor your pass, and you're on your way. So what are some of the drawbacks of a Rail Pass? The first drawback of a Rail Pass is that some trains require reservations. So even though you have a Rail Pass and you can hop on any train you want to and travel any day you want to as long as it's valid for your Rail Pass, some trains, especially in France and Spain and Italy, will require a reservation. A reservation means that you have to go to the train station and wait in line sometimes and pay an additional fee for that reservation to get a seat on that train. You usually have to do these ahead of time so that you are guaranteed a seat on the train. The reason these reservations are mandatory are because these routes are popular and fill up. They want to make sure that everybody who gets on the train has a seat for the train. Without these reservations, these trains would be too packed and you would not find a seat. It's a minor nuisance, but it's not that big of a deal. And the fees for these reservations, though they are on top of what you pay for the Rail Pass itself, usually only range from 5 to 30 euros. 30 euros would be for larger journeys in more popular areas, maybe going from Paris to Barcelona, Barcelona to Madrid, something like that. And these reservations are typically only required on high-speed trains or sleeper trains. You take regional trains or non-ICE or CE trains, usually you don't have to worry about the reservations, but a problem with those trains is that they're a little bit slower than the high-speed ICE trains. Another drawback to the Rail Passes is if you don't travel enough in your window of available travel, you are losing money. So let's say you have a 3-month Eurail Global Continuous Pass, but you only travel 5 days in that 3 months. Let's say for whatever reason you loved Rome and you stayed in Rome for 2.5 months, you only traveled 5 other days in that time frame. You would have lost a lot of money because of the opportunity cost of those other rail trips that you didn't go on. But if you buy a rail pass with a large number of travel days, you're doing so because you plan on traveling. But again, that could be something that you want to take into account if you decide not to travel as much after you buy that ticket. Now, looking at point-to-point tickets, the prices of point-to-point tickets are going to vary depending on when you buy those tickets in most cases. The earlier you book the point-to-point ticket, the cheaper it typically is. The longer you wait, the more expensive it gets. So if you know that you are going to go to specific places on specific dates and you want to lock those dates in, point-to-point tickets might be the best for your trip. You can save a lot if you book early. And typically, point-to-point tickets go on sale for their specific routes about 90 days before the date of travel. If you know that you're going to Rome on a specific date, and Florence on a specific date, and Paris on a specific date, and those dates aren't going to change, or you don't think you're going to change your mind about those travel dates, booking point-to-point tickets early can save you a lot of money. And as an example of a point-to-point ticket, looking at Rome to Florence about 2 weeks out, second-class tickets cost between 35 and 50 euros. That's one trip from Rome to Florence, whereas if I purchased a 4-day in a 1-month Flexi Pass, I'd pay $377. So that may not be worth it because 4 days, $377, that's roughly, as an adult, that's roughly $100 per day. Whereas the Florence to Rome ticket is 35 to 50. So assuming everything is at most $50 for point-to-point tickets, I can get 4 trips, assuming 1 trip per day, for 200 euros as opposed to $377 for a Flexi Pass. Now, obviously, that's one example. It definitely makes sense to compare prices, but the more travel days you purchase on a pass usually works out to be better on a day-by-day basis versus buying tickets. Also, keep in mind that a travel day on a pass is not one rail journey. It can be multiple trips on a single day, whereas point-to-point tickets are always going to be that one trip only. Then you have to buy a ticket for another trip. So if you wanted to go to multiple cities in one day, you'd have to buy multiple point-to-point tickets, whereas a pass could get you to multiple places in a single day. You can see more cities or towns if you want to. But again, the point is, do homework on comparing prices between point-to-point tickets and Eurail Pass prices, because there can definitely be savings on one side or the other, and it can be significant. One big drawback to point-to-point tickets is that you are locked in to travel when you book those tickets. Yes, you can pay extra to purchase a refundable ticket, but for the most part, if you're buying point-to-point tickets, you're probably trying to buy the least expensive ticket, and those won't have refundable privileges. So buying a point-to-point ticket locks you into specific travel days when you're planning your trip. So you lose your freedom and you have to plan out your trip day by day in advance. However, you don't have to worry about trains being booked up, and you don't have to worry about reservations because your point-to-point ticket guarantees you a seat on that route. Point-to-point tickets are good ideas for itineraries that are pre-planned and set in stone. So if you know exactly where you want to be on what days and what days you're going to travel on ahead of time, point-to-point tickets, if bought early enough, are a very good idea. Some trains in Europe offer overnight journeys where you can sleep on the train when you leave one city to go on a long distance to another city. These trains are called sleeper trains, and they either offer sleeping compartments, which are called couchettes, and couchettes are compartments that have beds in them that you can sleep in while the train is going from point A to point B. Typically, these couchettes are going to be 4 or 6 bunk beds in a compartment. These are great options to save time and even money to get from point A to point B. They save you time because you don't have to waste an entire day traveling on the train. You're doing it overnight, and they save you money because usually a couchette is cheaper than a hotel room would be, even sometimes cheaper than a hostel would be if you're staying in hostels. What you will need is you will need a ticket for that train, whether it's your rail pass or a point-to-point ticket, and you will have to pay extra for a reservation for the couchette. The cachette could be anywhere from 30 to 100 euros per night, I believe. But those will vary on trip to trip, and unfortunately, sleeper trains are much less popular than they used to be. One travel hack I used to do a lot, and I don't know if you still can do this, but I used to sleep for free on trains with a global continuous pass, sometimes for 30 days, sometimes for longer. Since I could travel as much as I wanted within 30 days without wasting a travel day, I would just take overnight trains, and instead of paying for the cachette, I would just sleep sitting up in my second class seat. And then since that was covered by my rail pass, I slept for free. I don't know if they have that many overnight trains any longer that you can do that. And I think that a lot of them are in fact sleeper trains and you have to purchase a cachette. But if you can sleep sitting up and you can find trains that go overnight to the places you want to go to, sleeping for free can really stretch your budget. Another thing that me and my friends used to do is we would find trains with compartments. So a lot of the older trains would have 6 passenger compartments, 2 bench seats facing each other with a door you could close, and those bench seats would slide and fold down to make a large bed. And what we would do, if the train had these compartments, we would find one that had nobody else in it. We would run into it, slide the chairs down to make a bed, close the door, close the drapes, pretend we were sleeping. And then for that night and that rail journey, we would typically have a compartment all to ourselves, and we would sleep like babies from city A to city B, and we saved a lot of money on accommodations doing that. And it was very comfortable. It was just something that we learned to do while we were traveling through Europe. But I don't know if those types of trains are still in existence, and if they are, definitely worth trying to do that. All you do is you, again, find an empty compartment, put the seats down, close the door, close the drapes, put your foot on the doorknob, so if someone tries to come in, you know that, and then just go to sleep. A word of warning though, the conductors may come in just to check your tickets, but typically, if that's still allowed, they leave you alone afterwards. So that's something to consider for those of you on a very tight budget. If you're using Eurail Pass, one of the very important things you want to do before you get on your first train is make sure your Eurail Pass is validated. If you have the Eurail app, you can validate it within the app. You want to do that on the first day you plan to travel before you get on your first train. Otherwise, if you have a paper pass, you want to make sure that you go to the rail station a bit early and either go to the ticket or information office and have someone who works there validate the pass for you, or you want to find a validating machine, which some stations have, and you can just validate the pass using that machine before you get on the train. If you do not validate the pass, and I did this my very first time using my Eurail Pass years and years ago, the conductor can fine you, and sometimes that could be over $100 US, or they can kick you off the train at the next stop, and that next stop can be in the middle of nowhere. So validate your pass. It's a costly mistake to make, and it's a very silly one that can be avoided. Point-to-point tickets should not need to be validated because the ticket is for that specific train. However, double check when you purchase the point-to-point ticket in case it does need to be validated, because again, it's a very costly mistake that you can avoid if you just take the few minutes before the train ride to get that validated. And if you're unsure, ask a conductor before you get on the train, or go to the information booth or ticket window to ask one of the personnel, and they'll be happy to answer that question for you. Trains and train stations run on a 24-hour clock, which is military time to us in the US. You have to get used to that. You have to be able to read it, and you have to be able to understand it. And the easiest way to understand military time is that anything you see over 12 o'clock noon, you just subtract 12 and add PM. Anything that's 12 or below is just the normal time, AM. So on 12 noon is 12 noon, 11 is 11 AM, 9:15 is 9:15 AM, 15:23, 15 minus 12, and add PM. So 15 minus 12 is 3, so it's 3:23 PM. They won't show 12 midnight, they'll show 0000 or 0015, and that would be 12:15 AM. And you will get very good at this, but you have to learn to read the big train time boards, the arrival and departure boards that you see when you walk into big train stations, as well as the platform signs. All the information you need to get around the train stations and on the proper train will be displayed on either the platform or the large arrival and departure boards, as well as your app if you're using a train ticket app. When you're walking through the train station, the easiest thing to do, look at the big board. You can easily see if a train is arriving on platform 1 or if it's departing on platform 15. Whatever the case is, that information is all there. You need to be able to read that relatively quickly, and you will learn very quickly how to read that the more train stations you go to. So again, important things to know from the arrival and departure boards is one, that there is an arrival side and a departure side. Those are showing quite clearly which trains are arriving and where, and which trains are departing. So if you're waiting for a train to the next town, you want to know where that's arriving to and what time that's departing. You want to know the platform number, train arrival and departure times. All that information is there. And like I said, you'll find it very easy once you've gone to a couple train stations. When you're at the train station waiting for your train, listen to announcements. Even if you don't speak or understand the language, listen. If you hear an announcement come over the loudspeaker and you see everybody around you waiting for the train that you're waiting for, stand up and panic and run off to another platform. A good indication that that announcement said that the train you're waiting for is pulling into a different platform and you now need to get up and move with everybody else. So listen to announcements. It might be for your train. If you're unsure of anything with your rail pass, your train tickets, what train you need to get on, what platform you need to be at, ask a conductor. There are personnel and conductors walking around most train stations. Also, there's always an information or ticket office. You can go there. They'll print out your itinerary for you, your rail journeys for you. They'll tell you what platform to be at, where your next stop is, what train transfer you have to get on at the next station, if there is one. They'll print that out for you if you ask them to. Otherwise, just ask them a question, confirm, that you have the right platform, you have the right time, you have the right train number, and they'll point you in the right direction if you don't. Also, very important, make sure that you get onto the car or one of the cars that is going to your destination. Sometimes long trains will split off at different towns or cities, and only half that train or a portion of that train or one car from that train will stop and be left at that city station, and the rest of the train will go on to somewhere else. Usually, the side of the train by the door you get into and out of the car from will say where that car is going to. 90% of the time, the entire train is going to the same exact place. However, there are those times where part of the train gets dropped off at one place and the rest of the train goes on to somewhere else. As I mentioned before, there's a difference in cost between first class and second class seating on trains, and that goes for both passes and for point-to-point tickets. Both types of seats arrive at the destination at the exact same time, so unless you have a very good reason for buying a first class ticket, you probably don't need one, so don't bother. This should go without saying, but a Eurail Pass or your point-to-point train tickets are only valid for trains, not city subways, not city trams, not buses, just the trains. Subways in a city, buses, trams in a city are different than Europe's rail system. Be aware of your surroundings at busy stations or on busy trains. Pickpockets love busy places. Keep your bags with you on the trains, either at your feet, on your lap, overhead on a storage rack, and know where your belongings are. Wear a money belt when you're walking around. This should go without saying, but keep any excess cash, your extra credit cards, your extra debit cards, and your passport in your money belt at all times. If you feel somebody bump into you in a busy station, going up an escalator, walking to the train itself, on the platform, or especially on the train, just as the doors are closing or opening, check to make sure your wallet and your phone are where you think they're supposed to be. Check your pocket. Just put your hand on your pocket to make sure that no one took your wallet or your phone. Pickpockets love busy places, and all it takes is a little bump or a nudge distracts you, their hand is in your pocket, and they're gone with your stuff when the train doors close and you can't get to them. Don't be paranoid. Just be cognizant of your surroundings. Be aware. Also, if you're going to use trains, pack light. Very easy to carry a backpack or even a light rolling suitcase with you, a carry-on suitcase, to get onto and off of trains. If you have multiple pieces of luggage, especially large checked luggage, you're going to be very uncomfortable lugging these onto and off of trains, finding places to sit or stand when you're on busy, packed, crowded trains, and getting through train stations and from train stations to your hotel or hostel or bed and breakfast. Know which station is your final stop. Many large cities have multiple train stations, and it's very important to know whether you are getting off at a fringe station, something on the outskirts of the city, or the central station. So know which station you're getting off on so you don't get off too early or too late. Many big train stations are great sources for snacks and lunches. The food vendors at train stations are usually top-notch and very affordable. And you can get very cheap, affordable food like sandwiches or coffee or pastries at most train stations. You can buy snacks for the train journey, or you can get a breakfast in the morning or a lunch in the afternoon when you arrive at a train station before you go into the city. Train stations are great places to grab food if you're on a budget. Many trains may not have Wi-Fi, so make sure you have something to do on the train, whether it's reading a book or whether you downloaded music, audiobooks, or a Rick Steves free audio guide to listen to while you're on the train. Especially an audio guide or a podcast or something about the next city you're going to. It's a really great way to spend time learning about the next place you'll be. So when you get off the train, you have an overview of exactly what to do or what to see within the city or town you're going to. And finally, don't be afraid to catch up on sleep on a long train ride. Strap your bags around your legs, the seat, or the overhead rack so that it discourages thieves from grabbing your stuff. As I mentioned earlier, some older trains in Europe have compartments that hold up to 6 people with benches facing each other, and these compartments have a door that can be closed. If you and a friend are lucky enough to find one of these compartments and it's empty, you can usually fold out the seats and make a large bed, and then close the door, close the curtain, stick your foot on the door to make sure that you know if someone's trying to come in, and then just go to sleep for the duration of the rail journey. And there you have it. Everything you need to know to master Europe's incredible train system. I hope these tips help you travel with confidence and make your journey as smooth and memorable as possible. If you're ready to start packing for your adventure to Europe, check out my video on how I pack one bag whether I go to Europe for 2 weeks or 3 months. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in Europe one day.